Well, welcome to the 700 Club, and let me just start off with a very heartfelt welcome back to Terry Newsom.
Let me just say, a very heartfelt, it's good to be back.
So you were in Kenya.
I was in Kenya. We were visiting our office there, projects there. Such a wonderful opportunity to see all of the elements of CBN at work in one place. You know, it was just a treasure. I took a little bit of Kenya home with me.
Yay.
Yeah.
Did you bring any video home with you?
Oh, lots of it. Can't wait to show it to you because you're
right.
going to love what's happening. Okay. It's really awesome.
All right. We look forward to it. That'll be on a future program, but it's great to have Terry back.
Thank you. Very good to be back.
We're going to turn to Israel, where U.S. arms shipments are in process. Israeli leaders say the Biden administration has confirmed that it's not holding up any weapons.
Meanwhile, Hezbollah's leader is promising a fight, quote, without rules if Israel declares an all-out war on the terrorist army. CBN's Paul Strand has more from Jerusalem.
The Israeli government says it's received assurances from the U.S. that there is no holdup in weapon shipments. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Netanyahu said the U.S. is withholding the arms it needs to fight. Wednesday, a post on a social media page for the Prime Minister's office said the U.S. ambassador to Israel told Netanyahu that the weapons are in process of being sent. A spokesman for the Israeli government repeated that message.
Ammunition and weapons that the Prime Minister referred to are in the process of being delivered to Israel.
A delegation of U.S. Congress members met with Netanyahu and Israeli President Herzog yesterday. Herzog says such squabbles shouldn't be allowed to fray the crucial U.S.-Israeli alliance in a critical time.
We are fighting here the battle of the free world against the empire of evil. That's what we're doing, and together, that's why together we must stay together.
Meanwhile, U.S. efforts to head off an all-out war between Hezbollah and Israel aren't bearing fruit. Both Hezbollah and the Israeli Defense Forces are ramping up the rhetoric. Israel's defense minister warns the Jewish nation is going to put an end to near-daily Hezbollah attacks on northern Israel.
We have an obligation to change the situation in the north and return the citizens safely to their homes, and we will find a way to do this.
Hezbollah's leader says the Iranian-backed terrorist group will hold nothing back if Israel attacks.
If the war is imposed on Lebanon, the resistance will fight without control, without rules, and without a ceiling.
He also threatened to drag Cyprus into the war if that island nation lets Israel's military or civilian jets use its runways. Meanwhile, as Hezbollah's shelling of northern Israel increases, citizens still there are tired and afraid.
It's scary because you don't know when it is coming to you. Suddenly you have an alarm. Suddenly missiles fall.
It is unbearable. It can't be contained. It is impossible to live with it.
Many among the roughly 80,000 Israelis displaced by all the shelling have been hoping they could return home by September 1st, when school starts again. But Israel's chief military spokesman says that's not likely. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, I hope the world is listening to Israeli President Herzog when he calls it an empire of evil, because that's what it is. We're looking at radical Islamic leaders, whether it's Hezbollah or Hamas or Iran or the Houthis in Yemen. They're all united by an ideology that is extreme. It's literally unimaginable for the average American, where someone would be so dedicated to killing Jews that they can't see any other way forward, that Israel has to be wiped off the map. And let me add to it, they view us in the same light. When they're talking, listen very carefully, because Israel is the little Satan, and you and I are the great Satan. So when they finish with Israel, they're absolutely going to expand out to say, where else can we go? To think that somehow the Al-Qaeda has gone away or ISIS has gone away, all it does is morph into new groups, and that is what we're seeing played out before us. I hope we wake up to it. I certainly hope our college campuses wake up to it and all the protesters realize, what exactly are they for? Are they really for the subjugation of women, that if you don't wear your headscarf right, you're going to be beaten to death? Do you really want that kind of thing? When they talk about a male-dominated culture, it's absolutely Islam. And do you really want that? Is that something that you absolutely prefer? One thing that shouldn't escape your attention is when the leader of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, when he says he's going to bring in Cyprus to this war, please believe him. That means he wants to widen the conflict. What is happening in Cyprus is they used to be a British possession after World War II. The Brits put in military bases. It's not Cyprus doing it. It's the Brits, when they flew attack squadrons from Cyprus to take out Houthi rebels, it all was launched from Cyprus. So that's what he's talking about. He wants to avenge that attack, and he's going to bring Cyprus into it. We're on the brink of a regional conflict. This isn't going to be isolated in say, just southern Lebanon. If this thing goes off, and unfortunately I'm predicting it will, what will Iran do? What will Hezbollah do? If they bring Cyprus in, what will that mean? What will Turkey do? All of these things are in play. So now more than ever, please pray for Israel. Please pray for peace. My hope is people stand down and Hezbollah stops firing those rockets into Israel. In other news, more details are emerging of what Vladimir Putin is calling a breakthrough agreement with North Korea. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. North Korea state media reports the new treaty requires a mutual pledge to provide military assistance in the event of war. The agency says the agreement calls for North Korea and Russia to use all means at its disposal to send military aid and other assistance without delay if the other is invaded or pushed to the brink of war. It also says such actions must be in accordance with both countries' laws and the United Nations Charter on the right of self-defense. After his visit to Pyongyang, Putin traveled to Hanoi, where he met with Vietnam's prime minister and signed an agreement pledging cooperation on science, technology, and energy. Well, here at home, the first named tropical storm of the 2024 season is set to bring heavy rain to the Gulf Coast. Coastal beach towns in Texas are already seeing high waves and flooding. The storm surge topped 10 feet in Galveston. Tropical storm Alberto is expected to drop 10 inches of rain on Texas and other parts of the Gulf. At least 3 deaths have been reported in Mexico. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts this year's hurricane season will be above average, with between 17 and 25 named storms. Well, victims of a devastating New Mexico wildfire seeking shelter. Some 8,000 people evacuated after the flames swept through the mountain village of Ruidoso near Albuquerque. The fire destroying about 1,400 homes and businesses, leaving at least 2 people dead.
So there are a lot of structures lost. We have no idea if we're going to even have a home to go to. You hear about things, you hear about people during fires, but until you have to evacuate, until you're in the middle of it, you just don't know. It's just unexplainable how you feel.
New Mexico's governor calls it the worst fire in state history. In neighboring California, firefighters are working to contain at least 12 wildfires. Well, the 2024 election season is also getting turbulent as the abortion battle spreads from state to state, with at least 12 states expected to hold referenda on protecting abortion in their constitutions. As CBN's Brody Carter reports, pro-life advocates are calling on the church to step up and help support the right to life.
The abortion rate was over 1 million children. Their lives were ended last year.
Despite bans in 14 states after the fall of Roe v. Wade, the Guttmacher Institute, a pro-abortion policy group, reports abortion hit its highest rate in 12 years in 2023. Chelsea Human with Human Coalition explains why.
Planned Parenthood has grown in size. Their budget was higher than ever. They performed more abortions than ever. Women now go online to look for their abortions instead of walking to local pregnancy centers or walking to an abortion clinic.
Last year, Ohio, Michigan, and California were the first to legalize abortion with voter referendums, adding an amendment to their state constitutions protecting the procedure. Hey, hey, ho, ho. This year, 5 more states will vote on similar amendments ahead of November's presidential election, with 7 additional states expected to add the issue to their ballots. Recent polling in these Republican-led states indicate most voters support protecting abortion, but differ on limits such as the number of weeks into a pregnancy it should be allowed.
I don't think we need to despair. I think the polls put pro-lifers in a better position than what we might realize.
Dr. Michael New is assistant professor at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I do think pro-lifers have learned some lessons from Michigan and Ohio. I think the fact that Donald Trump is on the ballot in states like Arkansas and Missouri and South Dakota means that a lot of Republicans, conservatives are going to be excited to turn out and vote for him. And a lot of these people are kind of natural pro-life voters. So, again, I do think that in some conservative states, this is winnable.
With abortion a key issue in the 2024 elections, Dr. New says pro-abortion forces are well funded. Last year in Ohio, abortion supporters raised tens of millions of dollars. It's now legal until 22 weeks of pregnancy.
We have to understand that the church needs to engage more than ever on this issue. We are losing on every front.
Founder and chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, Ralph Reed, is spending $62 million to boost evangelical turnout in the 2024 election. He told CBN's Faith Nation the pro-life movement can expect more wins.
We won a huge victory with the Dobbs decision, and we've passed pro-life laws, either heartbeat bills or late-term abortion bans, or even more pro-life than that in 21 states. They're going to run out of states where they can put initiatives on the ballot. They have to get to 60% in Florida. I think it's going to be very hard for them to get there. So at some point, they'll run out of these states where they can qualify initiatives. And then after that, it's our turn. And we're going to keep moving the pro-life ball down the field.
The fight over abortion rights is red hot in South Dakota, where pro-life activists are suing the group behind a ballot measure, claiming they committed fraud and lied about the number of signatures needed to get the measure on the ballot. Similar opposition and legal challenges are being fought in Arizona and Nevada. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thank you, Brody. Gordon?
Well, in the wake of the Dobbs decision, it's like the pro-life community didn't expect it, and didn't expect that once the Roe versus Wade is no longer the law of the land, it was overturned. Well, now it's going to go back to the states for a decision, and that means election, and that means voting, that means all of those things. And to say somehow, well, let's rest on our laurels, it was a huge mistake to do that. So please get registered to vote. Please participate in the political process. We really need it, and now more than ever.